Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. Some returning superstars and an all-new United States Championship title, but still the same old things wrong with the standard episode of Monday Night Raw, just as it is every single week. And we are going to tell you everything wrong with tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Monday Night Raw review and reaction show. Let's do it.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
All right, Sledgeheads, this is the new United States Championship title. Take a look at it. We're going to take a look at this picture for a second, and we are going to try to pinpoint everything wrong with this belt. While it is a vast improvement from the United States Championship that is around the waist of Apollo Crews right now, there is some very clear design flaws here, most notably right in the center underneath the letter M, where to me are very clearly two huge balls. Or boobs, if however you want to look at it. I've seen some people on social media say this looked like an owl, which I didn't see it at first, but once I read it, I was like, you know what? It does kind of look like an owl with its wings spread and its little legs spread out there at the bottom, taking a silver dump all over the place, probably all over our heads for being wrestling fans and watching this ridiculous nonsense. I'm not a fan of the red and the white underneath the bird. Like, it just, I understand they're trying to portray the flag there. I think the text elements are a little chunky and a little clunky. And while it definitely is not the worst championship we've seen brought to the WWE, it's okay. It's okay. Now, I want to bring your attention to this picture of the very same belt, and now we're talking. Look at this thing. Now, it becomes a case of, you know, like when you see something on the internet and then you buy it and then it shows up at your house. Like, you're looking at this great, beautiful picture of this really, really fancy-looking title belt, and then it shows up at your house and it looks more like that. And you look like you got an owl with some balls on your head or on the bird or something. Something gets lost in translation, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. But let's go back to this, because this one makes me go, damn, that's a pretty snazzy championship belt. Now, I guess perception is everybody's individual taste. What do you guys think of the new United States Championship? And while I have some, questionable things about the design, there is no question that the way they went about debuting this belt was an absolute mistake. Was just simply a travesty and was one of the most ass-backwards ways you could have done this thing from the get-go. And we'll get to that in a second. Let's pull out the notepad and let's talk about tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. If you enjoyed today's show, as always, hit that thumbs up and let me know you're having a good time, and then please consider subscribing so that you don't miss any of the times we bring the hammer down on the WWE right here on Sledgehammer TV, the home of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, and all of my loyal Sledgeheads just like you. Thank you once again for joining me. Let's get into the Raw July 6th, 2020. I hope you guys all had a safe and happy 4th of July weekend if you are in the States like me and tried to celebrate in this quarantine, pandemic, epidemic, era of the world, whatever you want to talk about. But I hope you guys had a great weekend, as I tried to do myself. I spent most of the weekend at work. But the people in the WWE, I guess, didn't feel like working over the 4th of July weekend, or else this show probably wouldn't have felt so thrown together and just so mishmash and backwards. This was a very backwards episode of Monday Night Raw. Case in point how they opened this show. They started the show with Drew McIntyre, which I always appreciate. It's fantastic to see the champ. He looks great. Drew McIntyre is a great looking champ. You think you could put the company on his back and it would probably be just fine. But then the WWE wants to go and book him in a program with Dolph Ziggler. Now, if I'm talking to you and you are the WWE champion Drew McIntyre, and I say to you, hey, listen, Drew, I got an idea for you to be with Dolph Ziggler. Or they came to you and said, hey, listen, Drew, I got an idea for you to be in a program with Heath Slater. Which one would you pick? Odds are most of you guys are as sick of Dolph Ziggler as I am. And if you're truly smart and have a wrestling brain, as most of I know my fans do, and I definitely do, you're going to book Heath Slater every time because they have a built-in storyline that goes years. And while it may not have been much over the last couple of years, the way they went about having Heath Slater on the show tonight was a great way to do it. It really was good. The way they had him come out there, the way he had this impassioned promo, talking about how when Drew McIntyre was released from the WWE, Heath Slater was the first one to call him. And when Heath Slater was recently released, Drew McIntyre never called him back. He's trying to support his kids. Drew always promised him a shot, and now he was here to get his shot. The only thing that brought any of this down was the fact that, A, Dolph Ziggler was the mastermind behind this. I would have much rather seen them do this without a Dolph Ziggler or somebody, because the only reason they brought in Heath Slater is because he has the history, because there is nothing to tell between Drew and Dolph. So they have to go fishing, they have to dig in the well, and so what can make this feud mean something? Well, let's bring back some faces from the past. And because Heath Slater was recently released, I fully expected it to be Jinder Mahal. Much to my delight, it wasn't. Not that it would have made it any better, but it still had that connection. So it kind of would have made sense. I would have understood it in the moment. I wouldn't have been happy about it, but it would have been fine. But the involvement of Dolph Ziggler brings this thing down 100%. And secondly, there's no way in hell Heath Slater is going to beat Drew McIntyre. In fact, when he came out and he made this challenge and he made this plea to Drew McIntyre, he looked great, by the way. He looked all jacked. He was all grizzled. He didn't look like that silly, mop top looking Heath Slater we're used to looking at. But he came out and he made this plea. And Drew was like, I'm not going to fight you. And then he kept pushing at him. And then finally, things got physical. And Drew's like, fine, you want your match. You got your match. And I thought this was going to be like the main event. I thought they were going to use this story to build up anticipation and let Heath Slater at least get something out of this night. But instead, he got a Claymore kick right to the face and was beaten just as easily in traditional Heath Slater jobber style. So what really came of this? Who came out looking good? Heath Slater didn't come out looking good. Drew McIntyre, what did he need this for? It didn't do anything. It didn't do anything to make Dolph Ziggler look like he's a criminal mastermind or even worth Drew McIntyre's time. The only thing I can hope is that I hope Heath Slater got some really, really good cash. I hope he got some good money to come back here for one night, cut a really good promo, and get embarrassed by Drew McIntyre for less than a minute. That was really worth everybody's time. And what makes me even more mad about it is the fact that the promo was so good. Because there is story there. And when you get personal and you deliver it in the way that Heath Slater came out tonight, you go, damn, you know what? They should have did this in the first place. You could have made a star out of Heath Slater off the back of Drew McIntyre if things like this would have been taken into consideration and would have been written weeks ago. But this was probably written minutes before. They probably got Heath on the phone and brought him down and did this. And it started off great. But then it was over before it even began. And Drew and Heath are hugging in the ring when it's over. Dolph Ziggler tried to get one up on the champ, but it just didn't work out. And then it was over. And then we didn't see anything more of Drew McIntyre for the 3 hours left of this show. And it was just awful. It was good to see Kevin Owens back. It was good to see Kevin Owens back, though. I did enjoy seeing him on the show. I didn't enjoy how they used him. We'll get to that in just a minute, as I almost kind of skipped over a very important part of the show. Now, they had Sasha and Bayley tonight, as they always do. And boy, talk about overexposure. They are in Charlotte Flair territory. Not only are they showing up on every show, but now they're showing up in multiple segments on every single show. And I will give a little bit of forgiveness on this evening, because we were gifted Sasha Banks versus Kairi Sane. And now I love the fact that Kairi Sane was on Raw tonight for no other reason than it's like egg in the face of all of these outlets and all of these news reporters and dirt sheet writers and website and other YouTubers like myself that all jump all over this BS news. They took Kairi Sane's picture off the graphic for the Raw show tonight. And all you saw for the last 24 hours popping up, oh, Raw star taken off of Raw. WWE star removed from Raw tonight. And then you click the clickbait picture and you go and you watch and it's like, oh, well, Kairi Sane, she's off to Japan, she's in bad shape, she's injured, she's this, she's that, and she's not happy with the Nia Jax, and she got married and she's gonna be an ambassador, and they're telling you all these fucking things, and then she shows up on Monday Night Raw, gives you a decent match with Sasha Banks, and there's egg all over everybody's faces. And this is why I don't do news like that. Because they all go and bow down to the Meltzers and all the little reporters, and oh, they said this guy said that. And then look at you guys. Yeah, sure, Kairi Sane's probably still on her way out. But everybody and their mother fell for it, right? Hook, line, and sinker. And they're all saying, oh, Kairi Sane's, oh, she was on Raw tonight and nobody expected it. The fuck out of here. Get out of here. Take your little news reports and keep them in the dirt where they belong. Alright, so ridiculous. So ridiculous. So I love that aspect of it. Just made everybody look really silly. Really, really did. You know who didn't say anything about Kairi Sane leaving right now? This guy. Because I talk about it when it happens and not a minute before. Speculation is for idiots, man. You can speculate from here to tomorrow, you ain't gonna get nowhere. Just talking around in circles. Only to be proven wrong. So why? Why bother? Why bother? I would have really enjoyed Sasha versus Kairi if not for all the commercial interruptions and the obvious schmaz finish that we all knew was coming. We knew neither of these girls were going to win. We knew there was going to be some sort of shenanigans, some sort of disqualification. You had Asuka on the outside. You had Bayley on the outside. It was bound to happen, and it definitely did. But when you'd watch this matchup, even though there was no winner and it ended in a DQ, it makes you wonder. It really makes you wonder why Sasha and Kairi aren't the main program in the women's division. They should have been in a rivalry and fighting for months instead of wasting Sasha Banks standing next to Bayley as her little number two, putting this on again, off again rivalry between the two boss and hug golden role models. You should have been having Kairi Sane and Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's Championship, coming all the way out of WrestleMania even. If you weren't going to give it to Shayna, Kairi was a great substitute. Sasha would have been great too. And you watch a match like that, and in what we've seen, you can't help but believe that these two girls are among the most underutilized talents in all of the WWE. And if Kairi Sane leaves, more power to her. You know she's going to be great and going to be fine wherever she ends up. Maybe this is her swan song. Maybe she's going to end in a program with Sasha Banks. Are we going to believe that the Kabuki Warriors are going to beat Sasha and Bayley, being that everybody believes Kairi Sane is going to leave? I don't know. Is it just a foregone conclusion that this is going to be a send-off for her? Who knows? But other than that, I was okay with it. I feel like this is all we really needed to see. We didn't need the champion versus champion main event, and we didn't need all the little promo segments in between for Sasha and Bayley. Just a little bit too much for my taste. And I would be a hypocrite if I didn't call them out on that when I do complain about it when they do it with Charlotte Flair and literally anybody else that they're trying to ram down our throats. Now, we were talking about Kevin Owens. I said it was good to see Kevin Owens back. Not so great to see him back. To be kind of a side note to an already overcrowded gimmick involving Seth Rollins, the Monday Night Man Bun with the black hand, and his disciples, and Rey Mysterio and his weird group of friends, proteges, Humberto, Dr. Dimples, who was absent tonight, and Aleister Black. I hate how they've been using Aleister Black. Does it make any sense for him to be involved with Rey Mysterio? I'm sure he's always been a fan of Rey Mysterio. Many of us grew up watching Rey Mysterio. I'm sure he's amongst us. Probably does idolize him in many ways. But what can a 6-foot-something guy learn from a Rey Mysterio? He's not a protege. We haven't seen vignettes of Rey training Aleister Black, them bonding backstage, them bonding on the road, working out together in the gym. There's no relationship there. It's just very random. It's just thrown together by the WWE. And the handling of Aleister Black is the first of a couple of poop hammers that are going down tonight. When I had to see Aleister Black laid out in the back with a Rey Mysterio mask on his head, getting punked out by Seth Rollins, how far has this guy fallen? Take a look at what this guy was. This guy was an undefeated, gothic-looking badass. Great look, great aura, great in-ring skill and ability. Boatloads of potential. Absolutely being wasted in this on-again, off-again hero slash student slash protege slash partner of Rey Mysterio. This guy should be on his own, tearing through the roster by himself. Maybe singularly focused on the United States Championship. Maybe looking towards Drew McIntyre and the World Championship. I would much rather see that than Drew versus Dolph. Drew versus Aleister Black. Take some of my money right now. I will watch with open arms and eyes. But instead, you got Aleister Black involved in this weirdness of Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins, which is some pretty intriguing television. I feel like it's getting a little bit repetitive. I appreciated the involvement of Kevin Owens only because he's one of the greatest guys on the mic that WWE has. He makes the segment more entertaining. He had a little bit of tension with Seth Rollins. But once again, it shows the WWE's failure to really get fans invested in what's going on with Seth and Rey, that they got to bring in a guy like Kevin Owens to give it a little bit of cheap heat, to give it a little bit of just a little bit more of an exciting element to it. But he's being brought in to a circus that's already got a bunch of beans jumping around, and we don't need any more beans. We got enough to make this stew. Let's dig in and eat and just get this meal over with so we can get to the main course or dessert or whatever you're going to follow this up with, if you get my metaphor. It's awkward, it doesn't fit, and I'm not crazy about it. Just leaving him laid out in the back like some backstage roadie or some jobber, undercard jobber, beaten up by the main event guys in the back. That's not Aleister Black. Then he comes limping out later in the middle of the match that we ended up seeing. Aleister Black was supposed to team up with Rey Mysterio to take on Seth Rollins and his little buddy Murphy. But due to this attack on Aleister Black, he was substituted with Kevin Owens. What a strange and odd thing for the WWE to feel necessary to do. While Kevin Owens, I guess, yes, is much higher on the card than an Aleister Black in many people's opinion, this was just the wrong move. I think it was the wrong move. And no disrespect to Kevin Owens, anytime they stick him on the show, is fine with me. It's just you're really kind of slighting Alistair in this moment. You've done nothing much with him. He's just like white knighting Rey Mysterio now. You know, it's like you were on the right track and you blew it. And you blew it, as usual. And this tag team matchup, the only reason it was booked was so that Rey Mysterio would win this match and be able to pick the stipulation for his matchup with Seth Rollins at the horror show, Extreme Rules. WWE tagged at that because they know just how ridiculous and nonsensically booked this show is, and there's no way it's not going to be a horror show by the time it's over. Now that is usually a heel tactic, by the way, to give the element of this babyface is in real big trouble, to make the heel have all of the advantages, really stack the deck against the guy the fans are supposed to be pulling for, so the heel is supposed to win and choose the stipulation. But I understand they went a different way here. They wanted to, I guess, make it more dramatic. Since Rey is fighting for the honor of his family, since Rey is defending the face of his giant baby son, an eye for an eye match. An eye for an eye match. First of all, what? What even is that? What, do they literally have to fight until Rey Mysterio rips Seth Rollins' eye out, or vice versa? That's what Rey made it sound like. He threatened to rip Seth's eye out with his bare hands, pulling it out with his fingers, Kali Ma style, right out of the face. And I'm wondering how this match works. You have to blind your opponent? I don't know. Do you have to show Charles Robinson an eyeball? I got his eye, look, boom. I don't know. I don't get it at all. I don't get that any more than I get how they decided to debut the United States Championship belt. We talked about it. I teased it at the beginning, and here you're going to get your payoff for sticking around. The belt, like I said, the design, meh, it's okay. You know, it's better than most of the crap they've been given, but there's a much room for improvement there. But the biggest mistake was that tonight on Raw, they had MVP debut this championship. And that's not the problem with it. The problem with it is that he gave it to himself. He didn't pass the United States Championship to his protege, to his client, Bobby Lashley, which would have been the right way to do this. And to have an entire segment revolve around the United States Championship, an unveiling of a new championship belt, and not have Apollo Crews even present at all, makes you think. How stupid was this? The first thing that should have been booked in this segment, besides, okay, we are going to have this ceremony for the new championship, it's going to be debuted by MVP and Bob Lashley, and it's going to be disrupted by Apollo Crews. That's all they needed to do to get this over. And then you could have had Apollo with the old belt holding up the new belt, and then Bobby and MVP could have stolen the belt away, and now you have your two champions. Something like that. You could have even done it reverse. You could have had Michael Cole or somebody show up tonight and give the United States Championship, the new United States Championship, to Apollo Crews. Here you go, Apollo. We're awarding you this new championship belt. And then, like I said previously, MVP and the human milk dud Bobby Lashley show up. Be like, you ain't the United States Champion. MVP beat you last week. We're taking that belt for us. And you steal the championship, thus setting up the champion versus champion match in the future to decide who is the real United States champion. It should be that easy. For the WWE, for some reason, it's not. This was obviously the most ass-backwards segment of the night, which is why it's getting a poop hammer as well. It's just ridiculous. And it gets worse from there because, no, they didn't have Apollo come out. But they had Ricochet and Cedric Alexander come out to stand up for Apollo Crews, I guess. And they've been involved with MVP in the past. This is the same Ricochet and the same Cedric Alexander that lost to Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne, MVP's first tag team he was going to manage that went absolutely nowhere, thankfully, because I didn't get it. But they showed up, they beat these guys, and then they went away. And now you got Ricochet and Cedric coming at MVP and Bobby Lashley just so that they can have a tag team matchup and we could see MVP wrestle in a suit. That's the biggest thing to take away from this match. MVP wrestled in a suit. Who do you think won? Do you think Ricochet and Cedric won? No, they didn't. This all happened just so that, I guess, later on in the evening, MVP could approach Cedric and kind of offer him a spot in his entourage, but I wouldn't want to join up with MVP anymore. This guy is putting together a faction. He's got a guy like Bobby Lashley on his team, and he's giving everything to himself. And it's just gotten started. Why would I want to align myself with you? It's just really backwards. It's really backwards. And while I am enjoying MVP in the managerial role, as we've said for a couple of weeks now, I didn't want to see him in the ring. I don't want to see him wrestling maybe one or two odd occasions, maybe at a big pay-per-view or something in a tag team capacity with Bobby when the time calls for it, if the situation feels right. But to have all of this now shifted to MVP is very Vince McMahon. It's a very Vince McMahon thing to do because he doesn't have confidence in his young guys. So he's going to go with MVP, one of the longest reigning United States champions, one of the best United States champions that the WWE has ever had, I guess. There's been way better United States champions throughout the entirety of history when the United States Championship was part of WCW, most especially before it was absolved and eaten and destroyed by the WWE and Vince McMahon. But yeah, that happened. That happened. So now MVP is going to be fighting Apollo Crews at the horror show for the United States Championship. And MVP's walking around with the new one. Apollo's got the old one. And who knows what's going to happen. Then we had a very strange and very unnecessary six-man tag team matchup, which is always a big no-no. It's always the boring, same repetitive shit. And this time it was made worse by the fact that we had the Big Show, who was the reason why I fell asleep last week for the Raw review and wasn't able to make it here for you guys last week. You could blame the Big Show for that too, because he was so much a part of that show that he knocked me out without even punching me in the face. Look at that. Congratulations, Big Show. Big Show teamed up with the Viking Raider Warrior Raider Raiders, only proving even more how far the Viking Raiders have fallen. The War Raiders are no more. War Machine is a distant memory. And the Viking Raider Warrior Raider Raiders are now glorified jobbers. Put in this six-man tag because they're big, like the Big Show. One of them is bald like the Big Show. The other one has a beard like the Big Show. And they all have a similar size and stocky frame. So let's put them together, and the Viking Raider Warrior Raider Raiders will be there just to take the pinfall so that the Big Show doesn't suffer the loss, because, we got to put him over. It's important to get the Big Show over. Because we all know how many times that's happened. Sacrificing the Viking Raiders once again. It just sucks, and they continue to lose. Not just because they're put with the Big Show, but because they literally are the ones that have been losing. They have lost to the Street Profits. They were wasted in that stupid anything you can do, I can do better, nonsensical 7-week long just laugh riot. and they continued to be wasted. I seen everybody on social media reacting to Randy Orton being placed with Andrade and Angel Garza, talking about a new legacy. El Legacio! If that's how you say it in Spanish, I don't know. Correct me, my Spanish sledgehead friends. El Legacio! That's what we'll call them if they go forward with it. Everybody else is going Legacy 2.0. Oh, yeah, Legacy 2.0. I could dig it. I could get behind it. I don't think it makes much sense when you're looking at it as a complete package. The trio just doesn't really blend well together. I don't know. Randy Orton almost looks like their dad. I don't know. And speaking about dads, good on WWE for having Ric Flair in the same building that has had multiple positive tests for the virus. Good job, WWE. Putting a 70-year-old man at risk. Now, I know Ric Flair at this point probably considers himself indestructible. The man survived heart attacks and airplane crashes and all kinds of crazy shit. But I would not tempt Mother Nature. And what they got him doing is not good enough or not big enough, in my eyes, to warrant Ric Flair risking his health because he's so needed to put over Randy Orton? What? I understand their connection from the evolution and everything. I'm not an idiot, but I mean, like, is it really necessary right now? Does Randy Orton need Ric Flair to hype him up right now? I don't think so. I definitely don't think so. And I don't appreciate Ric Flair being put in that position. But hey, once again, maybe that's just me. Talking about Laugh Riots, we just mentioned Laugh Riots. Let's talk about Ruby Riot. Ruby Riot hasn't won a match since she's come back. And I'm asking why. Here's a girl with tons of potential. She's got a very different look, very different personality. As you can see in her backstage stuff over the last couple of weeks, she can actually talk and cut a decent promo. But she can't beat the Iconics. She can't at least beat one of the Iconics. Last I checked, the Riot Squad were beating the snot out of everybody. So Ruby Riot was once a formidable opponent. But now she's getting beaten last week by Peyton Royce, this week by Billie Kay. This match was unnecessary, at best. It wasn't the worst women's match in the world, but it was nowhere near anything worth your time. And seeing the continued dismantling of Ruby Riot just bothers me, man. Now, if the whole losing streak thing is what they were going for, they're not putting that story out there very well. Because she doesn't look like she gives a shit that she's losing, but she continues to go out there and lose. And they keep throwing these hints out there that, oh, well, Liv's not calling her back, and Liv's not at the show anymore. Like, Liv Morgan's the missing piece of the Riot puzzle. And when Ruby Riot reunites with Liv, it's going to be glorious. I guess. I don't know. I don't think that really matters. I think they really dropped the ball. Ruby Riot should have been coming back. Just like everybody else, the way you build people is by having them win. Giving them storylines that matter. Giving them a solid alignment. If you have Ruby Riot come back and be a heel and just start tearing through everybody with her eyes focused on destroying Liv Morgan first, you could have built them both up. The babyface and the heel putting on some great matches, telling some good stories in the ring and on the mic, and then they both would have elevated each other. But instead, you got Liv Morgan changing her mind on what she is over the last couple of months. Every week, she gives the same promo with different words, which is amazing that she could even do that, but essentially says nothing. And you have Ruby Riot, who's done nothing but lose. Talk about failures. Talk about a failure. So yeah, Ruby Riot lost. There you go. MVP approached Cedric in the back. And Cedric really wasn't having it. MVP was pushing at him, telling him that he's Ricochet's sidekick, and that seemed to strike a nerve with Cedric. It'll be interesting to see if Cedric joins up with MVP, but the point, as I made before, why would he want to when you could just take a look at what he's already done to Bobby and be like, nah, bro. I was going to call him boy. Nah, boy. No, nah, bro. I'm good. I'm just fine. The end of this show focused once again on the women's division. We had Bayley versus Asuka, which was an okay match. It was an okay match, but much like the six-man tag and many of the other things on this night, it was way overbooked. A lot of stuff had to go down in this matchup, and it didn't really do much for me. It was about 25 minutes long, and in the end, Asuka got the win, which was good. Asuka finally got a solid win. We had Sasha Banks getting involved on the outside. You had Kairi Sane getting involved. It was just your standard, very typical thing, very similar to what we were seeing earlier in the night. But it was a decent main event. The one thing that I didn't like that was very cringy was they had Nikki Cross there. I don't know why. You know, is Bliss and Cross part of Raw or SmackDown? Somebody please. I don't even remember anymore. Does it matter? I don't know. She was there on commentary. She ended up getting involved. There was all kinds of shenanigans. She was trying to get through the legs of the security guards. That wasn't working, and they finally had her ejected from the arena, which was good because she was being really, really cringy and crazy on the announce table. And then you got to focus in a little bit more on the match, which Asuka and Bayley did a great job. I mean, I don't think it was main event, but it was champion versus champion, and it was a good way to go off the air, giving Asuka a victory, finally making her look like a damn champion, even though the outcome might have been, you know, how do you say it? It might have been due to outside circumstances and whatnot. It doesn't matter. Because Nikki Cross popped up on the other side of the glass like a crazy hockey fan banging on the glass, and that was enough to scare the snot out of Bayley. I don't know why. And it distracted her just enough for Asuka to slap her in the Asuka lock. And then Kairi Sane took out Sasha Banks with a spear in the ring. Bayley tried to counter, but then Asuka reversed it into a cradle for the pin. 1, 2, 3. And this was a pretty long match. Probably the longest match we've seen on Raw in a while. I don't know whether or not it was... I mean, it wasn't a bad match. It just... And I feel like it's just been a little bit too much with the Sasha Bayley thing. 1 week they're feuding and hinting at a breakup, and then the next week they're just tearing through tag teams while still kind of hinting at some sort of dissension between the two. We had a challenge by the Kabuki Warriors to the Golden State what do they call themselves? The Golden State role models. We'll see what happens. I don't think that the Kabuki Warriors are going to win. I'm not sure what's going to happen when Asuka takes on Sasha Banks, but I do know that the horror show at Extreme Rules is going to be exactly that. We're going to be covering it, as always, as we do here, and bringing the hammer down on what is very quickly setting up to be another one in a long line of terrible pay-per-views for the year 2020. And it's not looking like it's going to be getting any better. It doesn't look like SummerSlam's going to be being held anywhere other than the Performance Center, and we're probably going to get something very similar to WrestleMania, probably done over the course of 2 nights. And, you know, maybe it'll be good, but with the WWE, that maybe never comes. You guys know that. That's it, man. That's all we have to talk about for tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. Thank you guys once again for joining me. Once again, if you enjoyed today's show, hit that thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up. Let the world know you enjoyed it. Let YouTube know you enjoyed it so that we can get pushed out there and we can grow and get more people to join in on the Sledgehead army that we are growing here. And the number, if you guys are watching, we're growing every day. We are now solidly over 2,600 subscribers, and we are inching towards that 3K, which I want before the end of the summer. I hope you guys can help me get there. So hit that subscribe button, help us get to 3K, and then to 10K and beyond as quick as we possibly can so that we can continue bringing you some of the best wrestling content all across YouTube. Share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need to know everything that went wrong with tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. And, of course, leave a comment down in the comment section below. What did you think of tonight's Raw? What are some of the things maybe you guys want to see me bring the hammer down on? If you're still here right now at 40 minutes, you're a diehard Sledgehead. Let me know if there's anything you want to see me do lists on. Maybe give me some ideas, because I'm working on a bunch of stuff, and I'm a one-man studio, so it takes me a long time to do things, and I'm looking for stuff that maybe we could do quicker, or maybe you guys can help me get involved and help me come up with these lists even better. Give me some questions. Maybe we'll come up with some lists together, and they'll be official Sledgehead Army lists. I don't know. Let's do this. Let's grow this thing together, because without you, there is no me, and there is definitely no Sledgehammer TV. It's just as much as your channel, kind of, as it is mine. Although I am the Vince McMahon of this channel, and I hate saying that because I'm brilliant, and Vince McMahon is a formerly brilliant and scattered old man who's just killing the business that we love very much. And sometimes I think he's doing it intentionally. Who am I? I'm Nick Nightmare. This is the team, Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, his tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue, the Snowball, the most important member of the team, as always, each and every one of you. That is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Boom.